I'm Harold. I'm 77 years old, and I spent the last 55 years chasing money, not happiness. I need you to hear this because it might save you decades of your life. Not because my story is shocking or dramatic, but because it's ordinary, and that's exactly why it matters. I retired last year. After more than half a century of working, investing, managing, and planning, I finally stopped. And when I did, I realized something that no salary, bonus, or stock option ever taught me. I'd spent my life prioritizing the wrong thing. It started simply enough. I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, in a family that struggled to make ends meet. My father, a factory worker, and my mother, who stayed home, worked tirelessly just to keep the lights on. They wanted more for me, more stability, more comfort, more security, and I bought into that. I worked hard in school, got scholarships, and eventually earned a degree in finance. From the outside, everything looked perfect. I had the American dream laid out for me. I married my high school sweetheart, Linda. She was kind, patient, and endlessly supportive. I had 2 children, Michael and Karen. Life was comfortable in the way society says it should be. But comfort isn't the same as fulfillment, and it didn't take long before I realized something was missing. I threw myself into work. I became an investment banker, then moved into corporate management. I worked 60, 70, sometimes 80 hours a week. I chased promotions, bonuses, and the thrill of accumulating more. The office became my home. My colleagues became my family. And I told myself I was doing it for Linda, for the kids, for stability. But here's the truth. I was doing it for myself. I was addicted to the idea of money, the sense of control it gave me, the prestige, the comfort of knowing that I would never have to struggle the way my parents had. I thought happiness would follow if I earned enough. I thought I could buy contentment. Linda would remind me gently, sometimes frustratedly, that our family was slipping through the cracks. We missed birthdays, soccer games, school recitals, family dinners. I brushed it off. I told myself that it was temporary, that I was doing this for them. I was doing this for us. But deep down, I knew the truth. I was doing it for me. Over the years, I missed more than I can count. I missed my children's first steps, their first words. I missed the quiet moments at home, the little victories, the laughter that comes from being present. And I missed myself. I forgot what it felt like to wake up without an agenda, without a meeting to prepare for, without a portfolio to monitor. I forgot how to be Harold outside of work. There were moments that woke me up briefly. A fishing trip with Michael when he was 12, and he asked me why I never came to his games. A school play where Karen waved from the stage and I was stuck at the office on a conference call. Those moments hurt, but I rationalized them. I told myself I could make up for it later. I'd buy them things. I'd take them on trips. I'd compensate with gifts if I couldn't give them time. But time isn't something you can buy. You can't stockpile it. You can't invest it and withdraw it later. And eventually I realized I had invested too much of it in money and too little in life. I retired a little over a year ago. The first few weeks were strange. I woke up and wondered what to do with myself. I didn't know how to spend a day without checking emails, making calls, or monitoring the markets. The quiet was unfamiliar, but gradually I started noticing things I had ignored for decades. I noticed the way sunlight filtered through the trees on my morning walk. I noticed the smell of coffee in the kitchen. I noticed Linda laughing at a joke Michael made at breakfast. And I noticed my own laughter returning slowly, quietly, but really. I started reconnecting with old friends I hadn't seen in years. I volunteered at the local library. I planted a small garden in the backyard. I took up painting, something I'd always wanted to try but never had the time for. I started writing letters to my grandchildren, telling them stories from my life, lessons I had learned too late. And in those quiet moments, I realized something else. I had been chasing money, yes, but more than that, I had been chasing validation. I wanted to be admired, respected, envied. I wanted to feel like I mattered. But admiration without connection is hollow. Respect without love is lonely. And envy without joy is meaningless. Linda stayed by my side through all of it. She never left. She never gave up. She tolerated the long nights, the missed birthdays, the endless stress I brought home. She loved me anyway, and for that, I'll be forever grateful. But I also realized that my children grew up learning something I didn't intend, that presence and time were secondary, that ambition was paramount, that money could replace love. That realization cut deeper than anything else. I could see it in Michael. He had grown up responsible, successful in his own right, but distant, busy, focused on achievements, much like I had been. And Karen, she had become fiercely independent, but she struggled to ask for help. They had learned resilience, yes, but also a kind of loneliness that could have been prevented. And for that, I carry some guilt, though I also know it can't be undone. I spent years trying to teach myself that happiness could be bought, but it can't. Real joy comes from small things, from being present, from nurturing relationships, from creating memories, not wealth, from feeling grounded in your own life, not defined by numbers in a bank account or on a screen. I've started spending more time with my children, not as the provider, not as the authority figure, but as Harold, the man they barely knew because I was always elsewhere. We take walks, we cook together, we sit on the porch and watch the sunset without saying much at all. Those moments, simple as they are, feel richer than any promotion, any bonus, any stock option I've ever earned. I've also learned to forgive myself. I spent 55 years chasing the wrong thing, yes, but I can't change that. I can only live differently now, and I do. I wake up each day with the awareness that time is finite, that happiness is not a destination, not a reward for work completed, but a choice you make daily. It's in the way I speak to Linda, in the way I listen to my children, in the way I savor a cup of coffee without checking the clock. I tell this story not to scold anyone, not to preach, not to make anyone feel guilty. I tell it because I hope someone out there will recognize themselves in it and pause. Pause before trading time for money, before letting ambition replace presence, before assuming that wealth equals contentment. Pause and consider what you might be missing quietly while chasing what society tells you is important. I've also discovered that life after the chase is full of possibilities I never imagined. I started painting because I always loved color but thought it was frivolous. I joined a book club because I wanted conversation, not networking. I began taking long walks without purpose, just to think, to breathe, to feel alive in my own skin. And I found joy in simplicity, in slowing down, in noticing the ordinary miracles around me that I had overlooked for decades. The hardest lesson, perhaps, is understanding that regret is only useful when it teaches you something. I can't go back and give my children the moments I missed, but I can give them my presence now. I can't reclaim the time I spent obsessing over accounts and assets, but I can live fully today. And for anyone listening, that's all you really have, today, not tomorrow, not after another promotion, not once you hit the next milestone. Today is your life, and it's happening whether you notice or not. Some nights I lie in bed and think about all the choices I made, all the paths I took, and I don't feel bitter, not really. I feel grateful that I had the life I did, even if I misunderstood it for so long. I had comfort, yes. I had security, yes. And now I'm discovering happiness, finally, after decades of postponement. If there's one thing I want you to take from my story, it's this. Chasing money isn't wrong. Wanting stability isn't wrong. But if it comes at the cost of your presence, your relationships, your ability to feel joy, then it's worth reconsidering. It's never too late to slow down, to pay attention, to reconnect. You don't need a dramatic reason to start living differently. The absence of happiness is reason enough. I'm Harold. I'm 77 years old, and I've spent 55 years chasing money, And now I finally understand what it means to chase life, to chase connection, to chase joy, to chase the simple everyday moments that actually matter. And I hope you'll do the same before it's too late. If any part of this story resonated with you, or if you felt the same kind of quiet emptiness while chasing something you thought would make you happy, I want to hear from you. Share your story in the comments. Let's talk about it. Let's remind each other that it's never too late to live fully. And if you want more stories like mine, stories that tell the truths people often overlook, stories that help you see life clearly, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications. There are more stories coming, and maybe one of them will change the way you see your own life. Because your story matters, your happiness matters, and it's never too late to choose it.